After constant waffling on the subject, Donald Trump has apparently recommitted to debating Vice President Kamala Harris on ABC September 10th. However, there will be muted microphones despite the vice president's campaign requesting them to be taken down. And Trump himself has sent mixed message on this issue, which has even caused the Fox propaganda network to push hard on Trump campaign officials, asking why are they trying to silence their cult leader? But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. As you know, there is an upcoming presidential debate on September 10th on ABC. It is the second of the two debates that were agreed to by the Republican frontrunner, Donald Trump, and President Biden and Biden-Harris, the Democratic frontrunners, on the initial debate agreement. President Biden, of course, dropped out. Vice President Harris has become the official formal Democratic nominee, which even President Biden was just the presumptive nominee. And they will conclude that debate. There's a possibility that other debates will occur, but the vice president has totally ruled it out until Trump honors his word and has the second debate on ABC. And we're going to play some clips, but again, as a reminder, one of the things that featured in that first debate between President Biden and Donald Trump were muted microphones. So in 2016 and 2020, Donald Trump had a very bad habit of interrupting and heckling whoever he was talking to. So in that first debate back in late July, there were muted microphones. Trump could speak or Biden could speak, but they really couldn't interrupt each other because the microphones wouldn't pick it up. And there was a lot of speculation. Who was behind it? Was it the Biden campaign requesting it because they wanted to be able to let Biden speak without being interrupted and heckled by Trump? Or was the Trump campaign behind it because they recognized that in 2020, when he kept interrupting Biden, it cost him a lot of support from people who thought he lost the debate as a consequence? There was an interpretation both ways. But in this case, the Harris campaign has been publicly and privately requesting that the microphones be unmuted. And Donald Trump has sent mixed signals on this, and we'll get to that. But again, the whole question is apparently so controversial that even a Fox News Trump supporting host like Julie Banderas is pushing back on the Trump campaign like, hey, why are you gagging Donald Trump? What are you hiding?
Also, you know, ABC News has reportedly rejected a request from the Kamala Harris campaign, which I wanted to ask you about, to have microphones unmuted during the entirety of the September 10th debate. Why would they go with a decision like that? Wouldn't you want to hear raw reaction from both candidates? I mean, they do tend to interrupt each other. That can be distracting, but it also is real. I mean, don't we want to hear a real debate? Why does it have to be edited by muting their microphones?
I think it's pretty rich that Vice President Harris was making these requests so late in the game when she tried to accuse President Trump of doing that very thing. Listen, I get that she has not been out there in an unscripted manner. She has not been out there having someone challenge her. And so this is a very difficult position to be in. But she's actually auditioning for the #1 job in the entire world. And she should be ready to do this. And I think everybody's going to be looking forward to these debates.
All right, Tim.
So before we get into Tim's response, this is a Democratic strategist who's about to respond. That was a Trump campaign advisor speaking. Notice how she didn't answer the damn question. Why is it that you would turn down that request? Why wouldn't you all, since you say that you all are brave and strong and Donald Trump fears no one and nothing and he's perfect, he's a very stable genius who gets everything right, best speaker, most charismatic person, he has the best crowds. Why would you want to muzzle him? And if you had a good reason or any reason, why wouldn't you provide it? Instead, she goes on this ridiculous non sequitur saying, well, you know what? It's interesting that Kamala wants to change the rules. Sure, in theory, if there were rules that you think are reasonable, so are you implying, like, is that a tacit concession that you think it's unreasonable to want the microphones unmuted? Notice how, again, she doesn't answer any of that. Well, she just hasn't been tested, and I think a lot of people are looking forward to the debates. That was a non-answer, and the Democratic strategist who was about to respond here, he goads Trump and the Trump campaign spokesperson, I would argue Fox as well, by hitting Trump where it hurts.
Your final thought.
Yeah, look, I think Donald Trump sounds like he wants the mics unmuted, but his handlers do not. And I agree, they should be unmuted. I think you'd have a more honest back and forth. I think the chaos, though, that Donald Trump brings to that stage that is a turnoff for a bunch of people will be on full display, and his campaign is saying, we don't want that.
All right. Thank you.
So you can see Julie Banderas, like a Fox host, she doesn't like it because, of course, she loves Trump. But that was a brilliant response from Tim Hogan, the Democratic strategist, because what he's saying is he's using Donald Trump's words to try to sow dissent between Trump and the campaign, because reportedly that is what's going on. Reportedly, Donald Trump is really flustered by the current state and trajectory of the 2024 election. Again, not saying that this couldn't change. So we have to be very careful and not rest on our laurels. But as a reminder, Vice President Harris is winning in the polls. She's winning in fundraising. She's winning in head-to-head polls, swing state polls, and overall volunteer energy. And he reportedly is really furious with his campaign advisors because he's struggling to find his footing. So there's already tension there. I'll also say that Tim Hogan is referencing what Trump said recently when asked about the unmuted versus muted microphones. His campaign was strongly signaling, and they were doing their best to avoid looking like cowards doing it, that they wanted the mics to be muted. They were never going to come out and say, obviously, Donald Trump needs muted mics. They were trying to appeal to this idea, well, those are the rules and we're not going to change anything. But the campaign clearly wants the mics to be muted. But Trump himself undermined his own campaign because, of course, he's a thin-skinned, malignant narcissist who's easily baited into things.
President Trump, would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same.
So that was Trump again. And I don't know if he's just stupid. I don't know if he genuinely doesn't care. I don't know if he does care, but he doesn't want to be seen as weak. He has enough of like a lizard cunning to understand that. But he's like, I don't care. You know, I probably would prefer unmuted. That's why Tim Hogan in that Fox clip is again trying to sow discord. He's like, yeah, it sounds like Donald Trump is brave enough or foolish enough to want the microphones unmuted, and it would be more real. But his handlers, they're overruling him. They're coddling him. And it's very likely, given how much Trump religiously watches Fox, that comment will get in front of him. And it's possible that between now and the September 10th debate, that rule may indeed be changed. But again, you see what's going on here, the gamesmanship, the brinkmanship, and the totally unsatisfying answers of the Trump campaign. And it wasn't just that Trump surrogate. So Corey Lewandowski, a disgraced top Trump advisor who Trump recruited back into the fold. We've covered him in multiple previous videos because he is truly a despicable, disgraced, scandalous figure. He appeared on News Nation and was asked by Chris Cuomo something to the same effect, like, what's going on with this microphone thing, man? And his answer is also very unsatisfying.
Now, let me ask you something about the debate. I actually thought that the former president was going to pull out because of what had happened on the Sunday show and his feelings about legacy media. But what is this about the muting of the mics? What am I missing about this? Who cares if the mics are open or not when you're talking or not talking? And why would Trump not want the mics open all the time?
Here's what it is, Chris. Listen, when we negotiated this with the Biden-Harris campaign, by the way, the second name on that campaign was Harris, we agreed to what the debate criteria was going to be. And it was very simple. And they agreed to that. Now, all of a sudden, Kamala's team has come back to us and said, listen, she wants to sit down for the entire debate. She'd like to bring notes for the entire debate in. Oh, and by the way, we want to make sure that she can keep her microphone on. And when you go back and look at the performance of, Vice President Harris in some of the previous debates, she uses the same line where she says, while someone else is talking, excuse me, I was talking. We know that that's what she wants to do. She wants to interrupt Donald Trump. And so, look, I think it is fair. Hey, let the candidates answer.
So, again, even Chris Cuomo is not satisfied with this particular answer. But honestly, I think this answer was better than the one we initially saw, which is Lewandowski recognizes that this is a vulnerability for Trump, that if Trump is unmuted, he will overcommit, overextend, and play into the vice president's hands and allow her to pounce rhetorically. He's all but admitted that. We know that's what she wants to do, so we're not going to do that. Again, this is a battle of tactics. This is a battle of strategy. I don't have a particular preference for the muted, unmuted. I mean, it sounds like clearly the Trump campaign fears more the unmuted mic than the Harris campaign, but I see it both ways. I love the idea of a genuinely productive and civil debate in terms of substance, but we're not going to get that from Trump anyway, because Trump can't speak on substance or policy. However, I know that the Harris campaign will continue to use this as a cudgel against Donald Trump, and it sounds like they should, and it may very well work in terms of getting under his skin, especially now that even Fox News hosts seem kind of perplexed by the decision. And in the meantime, you let me know what you think in the comments.